You may have heard about the case of Brandon Robb, a former Marine whose house was swarmed by police because of some Facebook posts that were described as terrorist threats. Now, how do we determine what is a terrorist threat? Well, according to them, anything that questions government authority is apparently a mental disorder. And they took Mr. Robb off to a mental hospital, where the doctors threatened to forcefully medicate him and brainwash him. Now, you might think this is just something that happens rarely. Actually, this is going on every day in America. To veterans especially, but not just veterans. This is something that would happen in the former Soviet Union, where psychiatric prisons were common, where they put dissidents who were sent there to be isolated, brainwashed, and have their political ideas discredited among the general public. Now, this is what's happening now. If you read mainstream reports about what happened to Robb, you'd see how they twist it. They had absolutely no right to force this man against his will into a mental hospital and threaten to forcefully medicate and brainwash him. And they can't tell the truth about that. Now, what does that tell you about your establishment media, your communist media? There's another case, Jason Ergoff in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He called up an internet talk show, and he was discussing how he believes Christians and gun owners are under attack in America. And just a short while later, 2 police showed up at his door and wanted him to step outside and ask him questions because a friend allegedly was concerned about his mental health. We're living in the old Soviet Union, and it's not just Obama, but of course having a figurehead like that in a position of such authority increases the likelihood that we will be victims of this kind of mind control. In the case of Jason Ergoff, he was taken to a local psychiatric hospital for evaluation, as they call it. And for the next 18 hours after he was taken in, he was subjected to humiliating searches, probes, and questions by hospital personnel. Questions concerning his religious faith and what he thought about the government and Obama. Questions that were structured in such a way that regardless of the answer, they would result in portraying him as a dangerous, gun-owning Christian zealot. All as a result of him expressing his nonviolent, well-reasoned, and articulate views on a radio talk show. You see how they work. They make sanity sound insane. They make insanity sane. To them, if you're an atheist who doesn't believe in the Constitution, who doesn't believe in your God-given rights, who doesn't believe in the right to bear arms, you're sane. If you trust the government and authority to do the right thing, that means you're sane to them. If you take pharmaceuticals and you don't believe in God and you don't believe in the Constitution, you're going to be seen as just fine. Yeah, that's their world. That's what they want you to be. They want you to be a powerless zombie. And that's what most people in this country have become. Through, of course, establishment brainwashing and just sitting in front of the television, believing all the propaganda and lies. And they report these cases, like of Jason Ergoff and Brandon Robb. They say, he's expressing Christian beliefs. He believes that he has a right to bear arms. He believes that the government is corrupt. Wow, imagine that. Now that's dangerous. You see, that's what the Soviet-style gulags were for. That's what the concentration camps were for in Nazi Germany. That's where they put people who don't agree with their tyranny. Now, in this country, we do have guns, and we do have a basic Christian foundation that created this country. And we do have the founding fathers who spoke out from our perspective, not from their perspective, but they have crawled into positions of power, and they have the media on their side. And they have the head goat sitting in the White House who's up for re-election, and he's scared because for the first time in his miserable life, he might actually lose an election. Now, I know Romney isn't great, but just to see that toad thrown out of the White House would bring me pleasure. He is part of the reason why you're seeing these kinds of operations in this country. I'm not saying it didn't happen before, it did, but it's happening far more frequently now. And with DHS and all these other government agencies stockpiling ammunition, you can see where this is going. It could be an all-out civil war. You could have Obama and his people come up against the Tea Party and the people who question government authority in an all-out shooting war right here on American soil. If they don't stop this kind of operation, it could end up that way. It could basically come down to the Christians versus the anti-Christians, and the head goat, as I said, Obama, would be on their side, and the Christians, well-armed and ready to fight, would be on our side. Good versus evil. The only reason Brandon Robb got out of that psychiatric hospital is because of the amount of publicity that was stirred up through the internet and alternative media. If the establishment had their way, he would have been sitting in a psych ward for years, pumped full of drugs, against his will. We need to see whose side they're on, and we have to know whose side we're on.